Hello there everybody, I'm back for another video and today I want to talk about Donald Trump, or should I say President-elect Donald Trump. So strange saying that. It's been almost 2 weeks since he was elected and I thought I'd make this video. A brief summary of Donald Trump's candidacy will show how unlikely it seemed that he would win. This election has been the strangest I've seen thus far in recent American history. He started out by demonizing a segment of the American population, i.e. Mexicans, which stirred up controversy, and that is how I would describe his candidacy. Controversial. From attacking members of his own party, i.e. Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, and the rest, to insinuating that his voters should kill his opponent, Hillary Clinton. Controversial as he was, he did appeal to voters, which shocked both political pundits, experts, and a big portion of the American population. But clearly not big enough because he still won, and as a result, he would have fractured the Republican Party. His appeal could have been attributed to the fact that, unlike many politicians, he didn't censor himself. He was not PC, which was a big role in this election. He addressed the issues as they were faced by the American people, from unemployment to immigration, and was an outspoken opponent of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, as well as NAFTA, and pushed for the construction of a wall along the Mexican border, while his opponent was busy virtue signaling and making memes classified as hate speech, i.e. Pepe the Frog, and was busy advocating policies that everyone was against, no-fly zones in Syria, and the such. He simply told people that he wanted to hear them. And even though he faced challenges, he's grabbed them by the pussy video, it wasn't enough for him to lose. But now that the election is over, we need to look forward, and even though social media and parts of the American population are angry,
Tracking the protests in the States, now police in Oregon have used tear gas and flash grenades to disperse crowds in Portland, where protests against President-elect Donald Trump continued on Friday night. There, at least one person was injured in a shooting in the demonstrations in Portland too.
No, it's being shot in the air. The gun's being shot in the air. The gun's being shot. Someone got shot. Someone got shot.
As was seen on a bridge, police used pepper spray on the crowds and made several arrests. Officers urged protesters to leave the area immediately. The rallies descended into violence in the city on Thursday night when protesters smashed cars and shop fronts. The police said dangerous and criminal behaviour led them to redefine the gatherings as riots. There have been protests in other places as well, dozens of other cities. In fact, that's a scene in New York. It's all centering around the Trump building for the last couple of days. Most of those protests have been peaceful, but there have been some arrests. Let's switch now to Florida, Miami. People halted traffic on 2 major highways Friday night. Well, elsewhere in Washington, a tunnel was blocked. People chanting anti-Trump slogans there too. Well, plenty's been happening on the West Coast as well. Reporting from California now, Caleb Mopin.
So once again, the sun is down, and here in Oakland, the streets are filled with protesters denouncing Donald Trump, the president-elect who recently won the vote. You know, some people that are watching this protest at home right now, right? They might be like, well, look, Trump won the election fair and square. Why are they protesting? Are they against democracy? What would you say to that person?
We're just doing what's right. This is what we need. We don't need Trump in the office. He's just going to make everything worse. It's as simple as that.
So do you think, is there a way of preventing him from taking office?
We can all fight, do this every single day if we have to make sure that he's gone.
Trump, he did win according to the U.S. Constitution, so you're saying you're protesting against the American democratic system, right?
So did Hitler. That doesn't mean we have to accept the way this as it is. We need to fight back against this fascist system.
To have democracy, you have to have an educated public. And the public schools have been progressively defunded both by Republicans and Democrats. And so the system as it is isn't promoting the democracy we have in our Constitution.
So the crowd of protesters has marched all the way up toward the highway. And as you can see, right in front of me, there's a line of police with riot gear on, shields, clubs at their sides, to prevent the protesters from getting onto the highway. Now the protesters are turning around in face of this crowd of police with clubs who are blocking them from getting onto the highway, as they've done on previous evenings in the protests in the aftermath of Donald Trump's election.
We need to remember that Donald Trump does have some virtues, like his acceptance of the LGBT community, which is rare for a Republican.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology. Believe me. And I have to say, as a Republican, it is so nice to hear you cheering for what I just said. Thank you.
And even though his running mate is an anti-LGBT, as the case with him supporting a bill that would have seen states funding controversial conversion therapy, which was in the early 2000s, his position has evolved lately. It is not a position that I would like, but it's better than one before.
What about you, Governor? Read an article in the New York Times right after you were nominated that said you're a religious fanatic. You don't like gays because you were behind that law that doesn't force bakers and people like that to do gay weddings, that you're against the woman's right to choose, all of that. First of all, what exactly are your religious beliefs?
Well, I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order, Bill.
What kind of a Christian, though? Are you an evangelical Christian, a traditional Christian?
I made a personal decision. I committed my life to Christ when I was 18. I was raised in a wonderful Catholic family. My wife and I worship at a mainstream evangelical church in Indianapolis quietly every Sunday with lots of neighbors and friends. But, I consider myself just a pretty ordinary Christian. Try and spend a little bit of time in prayer and a little time in the book every day, and do my level best to live it out in my own personal life.
Now, gay marriage is the law of the land because of the Supreme Court. Does that offend you?
Well, look, I'll always believe that marriage is between one man and one woman. But my conviction on this matter is that's an issue that ought to be left up to the states. That once again we saw the Supreme Court of the United States reach into what has been the purview of state laws for generations and impose their view of that on all 50 states. They did that in the way they did with Roe versus Wade.
They did that for equal protection reasons. They seem to believe, those in the Supreme Court who voted for gay marriage, that if you deprive homosexuals of that you are biased against them. You don't believe that?
Well, I don't. Look, I abhor discrimination against anyone. One of the heroes of my youth was the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I think people who know me well and know my family know that we treat everyone with the same love and respect that we would hope to be treated by others.
What about abortion? Would you support a revocation of Roe v. Wade?
I hope to live to see the day that we restore the sanctity of life back to the center of American law. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And I truly do believe that Roe versus Wade was wrongly decided, and again, overturned more than a century of pro-life laws that had been enacted through the democratic process in all 50 states. But we're making great progress. More young people today embrace the sanctity of life than ever before. The great work of crisis pregnancy centers across my state and across this nation is changing hearts and minds every day.
Now, the left says that you're anti-women, that if you don't believe in quote-unquote reproductive rights, that you're biased against women. It's the same argument about gay and gay marriage. When you hear those arguments, those politically correct arguments that are made in the media almost every single day, when you hear those, that you, because you oppose gay marriage, because you want Roe v. Wade to be revoked, that you're a bigot, how do you respond?
Well, I just tried, I try and let it roll off my back. It just comes with the territory, Bill. You know that. But people who know me and look at my administration in the state of Indiana, we've had women in senior leaderships in our cabinet positions, women in senior leadership positions in our executive branch. We celebrate the accomplishments of women all across the state of Indiana. And really the policies that Donald Trump and I will be advancing, I think, are going to improve the security and the prosperity of women and men all across this country. And so we'll let the left do the way they like to divide things up and segment the population. We're going to promote policies that will benefit all Americans.
Governor, we really appreciate you taking the time. We know how busy you are. We hope we can continue the conversation throughout the campaign. Thanks again.
As long as both Trump and Pence are committed to liberty and democracy, and the internal check balances as well as the public should keep them in check. But as I come to the end of this video, I only have one overwhelming thought that I can't seem to stop, and that is the role of hackers and leaked emails in this election cycle. This phenomenon seems to play the biggest role in this election, and I might even say it was the final death knell to Hillary Clinton's coffin. But I cannot help but wonder why it is that Donald Trump, of all people, never got hacked, and why we never saw any leaked emails from him, because we all know his emails will be just as bad as Hillary Clinton, if not worse.